You won't believe it. The Orlando Magic's offense falls short. But why the Magic still deserve a little grace and still have a lot of growing up to do today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is December 16th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic take their first home loss of the season. It was inevitably going to happen. What the Magic showed us and the steps the Magic still show us they need to take after this loss. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. And of course, Locked On Magic is now available as a newsletter too. Introducing the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter to the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic Newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Robinhood Gold. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. It was inevitable the Magic were going to lose a home game. Look, it's a big loss to the Knicks. Let's not beat around the bush. In the race for the 3 seed, the Magic and the Knicks are going to be battling, and the Knicks now have a 2-0 season series lead. There's a game coming up in January. The last game up in New York is on an Orlando-New York back-to-back. The Magic probably lost the season series here. And the fact that they'll probably play 2 of these 4 games without Paolo Banchero says a lot. The fact that they'll probably play 3 of the 4 games without Franz Wagner, it's not necessarily a reflection of anything, but look, these games have major implications. And ultimately, the way the Magic lost this game comes down to the same reason they lose a lot of their games. The same reason that no one is considering the Magic a title contender yet, or a serious contender in the Eastern Conference. They're a nice team. They're a tough team. They're a young team with a great identity, but everyone kind of acknowledges that the Magic are not in the same class as the Cavs, the Celtics, and possibly even the Knicks. There's still an extra layer they have to get to. We're going to talk about one of those layers in a minute, but undoubtedly that first layer is offense. We can't beat around the bush. The Magic could not shoot the ball all game long. And going up against an elite offensive team like the Knicks, you got to be able to score a little bit. There's a moment in the third quarter where I turned to Mason Williams from Magic on SI and Cody Taylor of Rookie Wire and pretty much told them, like, whoever makes the next spurt of shots is going to win this game. It's probably an 8 or 9 point game at that point. If the Knicks got it out to 12, 13, 14, 15 points, they're probably going to win. If the Magic are able to sneak this thing back into the 4, 5, 6 range, the Magic have a good shot at winning. That's ultimately the big question here. That is ultimately the big issue. No one can count on the Magic's offense working long enough. The Magic finished with an offensive rating of about 96 points per 100 possessions, which is not good. Granted, give them a million credits for this. They held the Knicks, the second best offensive team in the league, 120 points per 100 possessions. The Knicks only scored 100 points. They only had a 106 offensive rating. But when the Magic's offense is this bad, is struggling this much, the margin for error shrinks. And while, yes, it is a 9-point deficit, yes, the Knicks led by as much as 16. The Magic were playing uphill the entire way. Through all of that, it's the game honestly turned on very few possessions. And you can live with that a little bit. But ultimately, the Magic's offense just wasn't good enough. Orlando finishes the game shooting 41.9%. A couple late threes brought them to 30%. They were 9 for 30 from three. But it was dicey there. This would have been the 15th game this season where the Magic shot worse than 30% from three. They had only 21 of those last year. The Magic are the worst three-point shooting team in the league. They're about 31% on threes for the season. This is bad. And look, the Magic can survive without making threes, but they got to make up for it elsewhere. And especially with Paolo and Franz out, without those two tough shot makers, without those two guys that are just so superb at getting shots and creating shots for others, without those two players, the Magic really are up against it. And so, again, it's not like New York was crazy good. They shot 46.5%. They made 3 fewer field goals than Orlando in this game. But they made 10 threes, only one more than the Magic, but it was about 3 or 4 for most of the game. And they made 24 free throws to Orlando's 10. They shot 30 free throws to Orlando's 13. In fact, only 2 players got to the line for the Magic, and that was Wagner and Anthony Black. Orlando just really struggled to generate any kind of push. And so we could talk endlessly about how good the Magic's defense is. And the Magic's defense in this game was exceptional. One of their best defensive efforts of the season. You can't deny that. The effort, the energy, the intention, the intensity was all there on defense. And none of it matters if their offense can't give them just a little bit of support. That's the bottom line in all this. None of it matters if the offense doesn't show up. And that's where we're at with this thing. The Magic need their offense. They need just a little bit. They don't even need that much. The defense gives them a wide margin for error. But with all the players out for the Magic right now, their defense can only do so much. And what ends up happening is the offense gives the defense a small margin for error. And look, we'll dive into the box score, but we got to mention this. Like, Jalen Suggs really struggled. Jalen Suggs finished with 9 points on 4 for 19 shooting. He was 1 for 5 from 3. That one make came at the very end of the game. 5 rebounds, 8 assists before he fouled out. He did have 3 blocks. He did have a steal. He did have 2 turnovers. So it was just a game where he could not shoot. And look, we know Jalen Suggs, if you give him a lot of shots, there are going to be moments where he takes some wild shots. He makes some bad decisions. It's an area where he has to grow, and an area where the Magic will need him to grow more dramatically now that Franz and Paolo are out. And after 2 solid games for him, this game he was chasing it. And I think the Magic kind of took their emotional cue from him on that sense, where they were struggling because he was struggling. And it wasn't that he was doing a lot of the wrong things. He was getting downhill to the basket, not getting foul calls, missing floaters, missing flip shots, missing open threes when he got them. It just trickles down. And the Magic, without their 2-star players, just don't have enough. This team is essentially just a defense that leaves the door open for the offense. And it's on the offense to walk through. This is the kind of game where the offense actively closes the door. And that's the thing that cannot happen. That's the thing that just cannot happen. New York finishes with 19 turnovers for 15 points. So the Magic do a good job forcing turnovers and scoring those points. But Orlando is 15 turnovers for 17 New York points. Like the game in New York, every time the Magic made a mistake, it felt like the Knicks took advantage. And again, we're talking about margins for error. We're talking about little things. We're talking about the difference between winning or losing is often that small. And so in this game, that margin is just minuscule. It's tiny. It's not big enough to fit through. And that's where the Magic are left after this. That's where the Magic are left off after this. They didn't score enough, like plain and simple. And it wasn't that New York was that great defensively, but they were great when they needed to be. The game, again, essentially turned on one stretch. End of the second quarter, Orlando's down by 3. They go 1 for 5, turn the ball over 3 times. And the next thing you know, the Knicks are up 12. That was your ball game. The Magic got to within 6 a few times, but never really got closer. And unlike Orlando, New York has shot makers. Jalen Brunson hitting tough shots. Karl Anthony Towns getting to the foul line, hitting tough shots. The Magic did not have the answers. They did not have their way to break forward. They did not have their way to break through. And that's the deficit the Magic are playing with right now. If you thought because of those last 2 games, because of Phoenix, because of Milwaukee, that the Magic would be okay, and they'll be okay. Like, they'll be okay without Franz and Paolo for however long it's going to be. They'll be fine. But they're also susceptible to games like this because they're missing so many key players and asking so much from so many players who aren't going to consistently give that to them. And the Magic are going to have to find a different way every single night offensively. And that's really tough to do. But there are certain things that cannot happen. And the one thing the Magic cannot let happen happened in this game. They let their bad offense affect their defense. It may not have been for very long, but it was for long enough. And that is the big lesson of the game. That was the big point that Wagner wanted to make after his career game. Is that for as good as this team has been, for as impressive as they've been, they still have a lot of growing up to do. So let's talk about that next stage of their development coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at BetterHelp. It's winter, which doesn't mean very much here in Florida because it's still relatively warm, but a lot of us like to think of the things that make us happy. We reflect on the year that just finished, looking ahead to the next year, how we want to be better, how we want to love our loved ones, all those things. That's what December is. It's closure and renewal. And if you need help thinking of ways to make yourself better and to process the last 12 months, there is no better place to go than to a therapist to help you talk things out, to help you make sense of your world and help you see clearly. That's all they're really doing, is helping you see yourself more clearly. Therapy is a great way to bring yourself some comfort that never goes away, even when the season changes. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill here. Look, we understood that the Magic are entering a very difficult part of their schedule. Yes, they're home until the end of the month, but the opponents coming into the Kia Center for the next 3 weeks are all very good. The Magic will play only one team with a losing record for the rest of the year. The Magic are struggling against teams with winning records. This is going to be a big proving ground, and we're also anticipating the return of Paolo Banchero here in the next 2-3 weeks. We all understood that being without Paolo Banchero and without Franz Wagner was going to be difficult. And while the Magic played very well to beat the Suns, they played very well in their NBA Cup quarterfinal game against the Bucks, there are going to be nights like this where the offense just doesn't work. The Magic are down a lot of key players. A lot of guys are being asked to step up and do things they're not accustomed to doing. And there's a reason they're not typically asked to do this. Now, I think Bo Wagner's perspective on this is great. This is an opportunity. Everyone should be excited about this. Like, yes, be sad. You don't want guys being hurt, but this is an opportunity for everyone to get better. And I agree with all that. And that's great. What the Magic need to do to survive this period, and it is about survival. Let's not pretend otherwise. This team's going to fight. They're going to stay in the race. They're not falling out of the playoff picture. They'll bounce back. This is the rough part of the season. This is what January was for the Magic last year. This is a tough part that will test them and hopefully make them better. But it's also important to remember that this is still a maturing team and that this moment is a test of their maturity. One thing I think that we have all been impressed with by this Magic team is how gritty and gutsy they are. They are a mature team, a team far more mature than their years would suggest. They understand that defense wins. And for a young team to understand and play defense at this level, even when their offense is terrible, that is a very mature thing to do. And the way the Magic have won a lot of games this year does speak to their maturity. But this is still a young team. And they are still susceptible to making these mistakes. And so the one thing that cannot happen happened in this game. The one thing that cannot be part of the equation for the Magic was part of the equation here. Orlando let their bad offense affect their defense. Orlando let missed shots, non-calls, turnovers cut them down defensively. And it doesn't have to be very long. The margin for error is just very small right now. And they largely didn't happen for very long. Jalen Suggs still had at least 2 chase down blocks off of a turnover, off of a missed shot. The Magic are still competing and playing very hard. But little slip-ups have big consequences. And so as this team plays without their star players, as this team tries to rediscover its identity, they're still showing their youth. And frankly, we have to start with Jalen Suggs. Like, a team takes its cue from its best player. And this is going to be the biggest challenge for Jalen Suggs. This is the biggest challenge he's going to face over the next couple of weeks. He's got to be a metronome. You look at Paolo, Banchero, you look at Franz, Wagner, they're competitive, they get after it, but they very quickly let mistakes wash over them. They don't linger. Franz might argue with the refs a little bit. Paolo might shoot a glance at the refs a little bit, but you never see their heads drop. You never see them. You always see them move on to the next play. That's never really been who Jalen Suggs is. Jalen Suggs finds a person in the crowd and talks to them the whole game. He is all raw emotion. And you could see throughout this game on Sunday, that emotion written on his face. That frustration written on his face. Like I said, he shot 4 for 19 in this game. He really struggled, missing makeable shots. And like that game on Tuesday, when you could barely hear him in the postgame presser, the weight of the world is on his shoulders. He is feeling it as much as anybody. That he has to dictate and control everything. That's a lot. That's a lot to put on one guy. And this team has to go with it. They go as he goes. Now, Orlando has shown throughout the course of this year, they can survive bad shooting. They can give themselves a chance, even if they're not shooting good. But what has happened also repeatedly this year is when they have these bad shooting nights, when they shoot this poorly, they do put their heads down. The defense does slip. And because so much is riding on this team's defense because the offense is so bad, that's when they find themselves in trouble. That's what happened against Oklahoma City. That's what happened with the turnovers against the Knicks in the first meeting. That's what's happened in so many games. The Magic make too many mistakes. They force things. They try too hard and pass up open shots when they're there, even if they're missing them. And that leads to their defense slipping. Like I said, it doesn't take very much. The Magic are very capable of competing and giving themselves chances to win. They held the second best offense in the league to a 106 offensive rating and 100 total points. 100 total points. That is a victory. Plain and simple. That is a victory. Orlando, you hold a team to 100 points, you should win. And the Magic's defense did the job. Just not the job their offense needed them to. And because Orlando had these minor slips, because Orlando looked to the refs too much or got frustrated with foul calls, Jalen Suggs fouled out with 4 minutes left in the game. And the game was essentially over at that point. But you could see him frustrated with the foul call, frustrated with the miss, and just trying to be too aggressive on Jalen Brunson and committing that last foul and having to check out. This is still a maturing team. As far as they've come, as much as they've grown, as good as they are, they're still susceptible to these mistakes. And as Mo Wagner said after the game, it's still something they got to drill. It's still something they got to learn. They got to watch this game. They got to feel this game. They got to let it go. And Orlando is not going to stop being an emotive team. Mo Wagner, sure as heck, is not going to stop being Mo Wagner. We don't want that. But it's knowing when and how to deploy it. It's knowing when it's a negative version of that and pushing themselves to be the better version of themselves. That's still the challenge for this team. And among the many tests that the Magic will go through during this period, this is the big one. It's easy to keep your composure when Paolo Banchero can take the ball, calm everybody down, and get that shot or get to the foul line to keep pressure on and keep scoring points. It's one thing when you can do that. The Magic can't quite do that with the group that they have. And so they've got to keep their composure. And it's not like New York completely flustered them. There's a dust up between Wendell Carter and Campaign, I believe. Not anyone's fault. But this Magic team has to keep its composure to play at the level they need to beat teams like New York. Because their margin for error is very, very small, as these last two games have proven. And the Magic need to be at their best to win. Let's go through the box score. We'll break this game down from the numbers coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. FanDuel has so many great offers, whether you're looking ahead to college bowl season. We got the playoff coming up on Friday and Saturday. We got the Cure Bowl coming up. Ohio, 3.5-point favorites over Jacksonville. The Gasparilla Bowl, Florida is still a 13.5-point favorite over Tulane. And Notre Dame, 7.5-point favorites over Indiana in the playoff. If you're in the first game of the college football playoff, if you're looking ahead to NBA games, NBA Cup game, the final coming up on Tuesday, we got the Oklahoma City Thunder 5-point favorites over the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Cup final on Tuesday. So we'll see if the Bucks can make good and finish the job in Vegas. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's go through the final box score, talk a little bit more about this game statistically. As your Orlando Magic fall to the New York Knicks 191, their first home loss of the season. They weren't going 41-0 at home. Again, no shame in losing the Knicks. Good team, home or away, good team. You're not going to be upset. The Magic, I want to make this clear. The Magic played hard. They played with effort, did not execute well enough, turned the ball over at the wrong times and in bunches to allow New York to get transition points. They were better in transition than the Magic. Their defense was good enough to win, but the offense just did not provide support. And so New York, second best offensive team in the league, when they got going, the Magic just was not able to keep up. And again, it was just that little stretch in the second quarter. There's another stretch in the third. There's another stretch in the fourth where the Magic just gave away too many points, too many possessions, missed their window to get back in this game. That's what it comes down to. That's what you want games ultimately decided by. The Magic can look back at this and say, we did enough to win. We made mistakes. Now let's correct them. Now let's fix those mistakes. And all those mistakes are frankly correctable. And some of them are just simple, make shots. Orlando again shoots 41.9% from the floor, 9 for 30 from beyond the arc, 10 for 13 from the foul line. The Knicks shoot 24 for 30 from the foul line. Big difference there. Jalen Brunson was 11 for 14. He shot more free throws as a player than Orlando did as a team. And, you might be sitting there saying like, okay, that's a problem. Orlando was fouling him. That wasn't the issue. Orlando was getting in the paint. They won the paint 48-42. I say win the paint, win the game a lot. The Magic gave themselves a lot of opportunities to win this game. They just were not able to draw foul calls for whatever reason. They fouled. Their physical team, they're going to foul a lot. They were not able to get to the foul line, not able to match. Again, no starter actually shot a free throw. All the Magic's free throws were shot by Mo Wagner, who was 8 for 11, and Anthony Black, who made his 2 free throws. Like I said, Jalen Suggs really struggled, and that's the issue. Like, for this to work, for the Magic to operate and function, they need Jalen Suggs to be good. And he was good against the Bucks. He was good against the Suns. He was great defensively. Look, Jalen Brunson got the foul line. He was 8 for 18 from the floor, 4 for 8. I'm sure his true shooting percentage looks a little bit better than that. But if you're holding Jalen Brunson to 8 for 18 shooting, if he needs 18 shots to get his 31 points or, has to lean on getting the foul line, like there's things you could do better defensively. And Orlando was in the bonus early in the second half in both quarters. Look, the Magic's defense did the job. Karl-Anthony Towns was 7 for 15. He had 22 points, 22 rebounds, but 18 defensive rebounds. So a lot of misses that he's grabbing there. 18 of their 38 defensive rebounds. Like he's gobbling up every miss that the Magic had. The Magic had a lot of misses. But again, Suggs, 9 points, 4 for 19 shooting, 1 for 5 from 3, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. He's trying to get others involved. He's trying to make things happen. I thought like one of his better games at getting downhill into the paint. Just couldn't score when he got there and made a lot of good decisions when he got there. But again, you could just see the frustration written on his face that he wasn't able to score. Orlando only had 2 players score in double figures in this game. And again, that's your problem. There's not enough scoring. Mo Wagner had a career high 32 points, 10 for 15 shooting, 4 for 7 from beyond the arc, 8 for 11 from the foul line. Added 6 rebounds as well. Mo was excellent. He demurred and said, a lot of my baskets are coming off of plays from others. Again, a lot of assists, a lot of pick and rolls. This is a guy, though, that never loses his aggression. He never tries to be more than he is. Like, he may try some post moves or some spin moves, but he's good at those too. He never tries to be more than he is. He, I thought, played one of his best games. And again, like he's set up a lot by other people. But again, this is what you need from the Magic right now. Don't be more than who you are. Be yourself. Just be better at being yourself. We're not looking for anyone to be Paolo. We're not looking for anyone to just suddenly transform into a superstar. Just be a better version of yourself. Mo Wagner has taken that call by a million over the last 3 years to be the best version of himself. And that, honestly, like, yes, a lot of his plays are set up by others. It's a lot of pick and rolls. It's a lot of, pop outs to the 3-point line. It's a lot of that stuff. But he has worked hard to make himself available by being aggressive, by rolling hard, by being prepared and ready for the ball to swing to him. that is all on him. As much as other players set him up, he puts himself in that great position to be successful. And I think Mo Wagner deserves a lot of credit for that. The other Magic player in double figures is Tristan da Silva. 20 points, 9 for 17 shooting, 2 for 5 from 3. Again, I'll point this out too. Mo Wagner's 4 for 7 from 3. Jonathan Isaac made his only 3. Jalen Suggs 1 for 5. Tristan da Silva 2 for 5. Those are the only 4 players that made threes in this game. But Tristan da Silva was really good. The Knicks seemed very okay with leaving him open. He made shots. He cut into space. Again, same thing with Mo Wagner. It's not about how much you create for yourself. It's being better at who you are and being available and ready when the ball swings to you. Tristan da Silva was ready tonight. He was ready to score. He was ready to shoot. He was ready to be whatever the Magic needed from him. And that's why he was so successful. That's why he delivered for this team. Da Silva didn't do anything crazy. He started to try to attack a little bit. Like, you could definitely sense that he understood, I'm the one that has it going tonight. Let me try and do a little bit more. And that's honestly when he got into trouble. When he played his game, cut into open space, took open shots when they were there, ran the floor, got out in transition. When he did all of that, attacked the offensive glass, he had 3 offensive rebounds. When he did all of that, he was really good in this game. So again, the lesson should be from this game. Don't try to be someone else. Be you, but the best version of you and the best version of what you do. You're not replacing Paolo. You're not going to be Franz. Just be you. Again, just not a lot of scoring elsewhere. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was 2 for 7, 0 for 3 from 3. Goga Bitadze, 8 points, 11 rebounds. Typical Goga Bitadze did have 4 turnovers. Wendell Carter struggled offensively, 2 points, 1 for 4 shooting, but I thought played really good defense on Karl Anthony Towns. When they were able to get matched up and he was able to establish his position, really good stuff. Playing Wendell on him allowed Goga Bitadze to roam a little bit and block shots. I also think that got Goga in trouble because he'd be ball watching a little bit. He'd be gunning for blocks instead of defending Josh Hart. This just may not be a great matchup for Orlando with the lineups they're using right now. I think obviously when we get to the playoffs, if we were to see the Knicks, we'd be seeing a different lineup. We'd be seeing a different kind of alignment against them. Not a lot else off the bench. Jonathan Isaac had 3 points. Anthony Black was 1 for 7 for 4 points. Cole Anthony scored 4 points. A lot of that coming in the fourth quarter. Orlando did turn to Corey Joseph in the third quarter. He provided a little bit of stability, did a nice job, I think, running the offense and trying to get Jalen Suggs off the ball a little bit more so that he would have a little bit more freedom. But, the reason why Corey Joseph isn't playing is he struggled a little bit defensively. New York was definitely hunting him a little bit, trying to get him switched on to Jalen Brunson. Brunson attacked him, did a really good job on that. But for first real minutes of the season for Corey Joseph, like, he gave what I think he would give this team. That's just a little bit of stability, a little bit of calm, a little bit veteran poise. Would not surprise me if he's going to get a little bit of a longer look here and get a little bit more run if the Magic run into this offensive wall again, just to give them someone who can stabilize them, organize, get guys in the right spots and kind of move. Again, Orlando was searching for offense anywhere they could get it. Caleb Houston got some extended run as well, did hit a 3, but that's about it. Like I said, the Knicks played well, not like exceptionally well. Their defense was hounding. Orlando, for whatever reason, brings out the best in their defense. They've been an inconsistent defense. The Magic have caught them on 2 good defensive nights. They shoot 46.5% from the floor, 10 for 24 from 3. So Magic chase them off the line, but they make those threes nonetheless. Jalen Brunson hit 4 threes. Deuce McBride hit 2. 24 for 30 from the foul line. That was the big difference in the game. Orlando just unable to keep New York off the foul line. Just a little bit late on some things. Just physicality. It worked against Orlando and for New York in this game. And that was just how the game was called. And Orlando didn't really have a way to adjust. They still forced 19 turnovers. Orlando had 8 steals, 10 blocks. So getting all those stocks that the Magic typically get. The defense did its job. You hold this Knicks team, again, they're 120 points per 100 possessions. They scored about 106 in this game. You hold this team to 100 points. You're doing some real good work. And I think we should recognize that despite whatever struggles the Magic's defense had, they're only struggles because the offense couldn't cover for them. The defense had to be perfect. And it was probably at like 90%, 85%, something like that. It had to be 100% to win this game with the way the offense was playing. And that's just the reality of the situation right now. The Orlando Magic fall to the New York Knicks 100-91. They're back in action Thursday against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who will be fresh off the NBA Cup final. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Find me on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. And for the latest, and you can subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himmel, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the links to podcasts to your podcast enable listening device. You can find us on YouTube as well. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, your Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. Don't forget, too, the Locked On Magic newsletter is here. It's the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. On tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic, let's open up trade season. We'll talk about some names to keep an eye on and what the Magic might be looking for on the trade market since it's open. We'll get to that on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.